Raz. Varon, we are here at the Chicago Auto Show. It's our last Facebook Live for the week, although the show goes on until Monday. But I want to introduce you to the two general managers of the show, Jennifer Moran and Dave Sloan. And Dave is retiring after how many years?
Well,
a lot.
31 years at the CATA, but I've only been the general manager since 2010.
Only 2010.
Only, right. So we thought it would be really lovely to talk about the show, how you guys put it together, some fun memories, and what people don't want to miss about this year's show, because you still have a few days to come over here and see it. So let's start with, I guess, how has the show changed over all these years? And Jen, how many years have you been with the show?
So this is my 12th consecutive year, but I also was an intern out of college. So I guess that this is my 13th or 14th auto show.
Okay, so I mean, even in those 13 or 14 years, but in the dozens of years, and the dozens of years I've been covering it, I've seen it change. So why don't you start, Dave?
Sure. Well, when I started at the Chicago Auto Trade Association in 1993, so 94 was my first show, we were still in the Lakeside Center, which then was called McCormick Place East. And so it was a show on two levels, and it was really pretty small compared to what it is now. And then in 1997, they opened this building, which in this room, which is the biggest room in the United States, 840,000 square feet. And so we never thought we'd get bigger. And then in 2004, we convinced the Tourism Bureau and McCormick Place to let us use the North Building. And that was a big deal because, you know, they tend to like trade shows that fill hotel rooms and things. And the auto show doesn't do that as well as some of the trade shows do. You know, the machine tool show and the radiology show, they really fill hotel rooms. But the auto show brings a lot of people to McCormick Place who wouldn't otherwise see it. And it really shows off McCormick Place, I think, better than any other show.
I agree. I mean, having covered it for as many years as I have, I've really gotten to know this place, this building, and kind of navigate my way around it. And it's a big, big facility. So what are some of the changes that you've seen over those 12, 13 years?
So we used to see a lot of concept vehicles. We were just having this conversation the other day.
Right.
You know, manufacturers aren't producing as many concept vehicles, but you can still see the technology in EVs, for example, and even any hybrid, plug-in hybrid, gas-powered vehicles. There's tons of new technology that's available, and that's what's so great about an auto show, is to be able to experience all that there is in the vehicles today. We're seeing more test tracks, for example. I know Jeep came in first back in what was it, 2005?
Yeah.
And so they were doing that for a long time, but we have 3 indoor test tracks this year, and the Chicago Drives Electric indoor test track has actually grown. So now we have 9 brands on that track versus 5 last year. So those are some of the types of trends. And interestingly, we're seeing more females come to the auto show. So, and that could be a little bit to do with some of our marketing strategies over the last decade or so. But when I came on 12 years ago, I think it was like 20% of the attendees were female and the rest were male. And now we're an almost equal split. I think we're like 49-51 female to male ratio. So that's pretty interesting. And I know we've talked about this before, Raz, but you know, women do influence 80% of the purchase decision when it comes to buying a new vehicle. So it makes sense why women would be at the auto show.
I was going to say, it absolutely makes sense. You know, one of the things that I have seen change over the years is at each of these dealerships, manufacturers, they have product specialists instead of models, you know? I mean, and they are very well versed. So if you have a question and you ask them, they will be able to answer and help you out if you're looking to purchase a vehicle. So that's a big trend too.
Just one more point on the concept cars. You know, you think about it, and Jen sort of alluded to it. Concept cars used to be all about styling. You know, what does the future look like?
Right.
And now it's all about technology. And as Jen said, it's electric, it's autonomous vehicles. And so the concepts are really on the show floor now, on the TV test track. All the future technology is happening. I mean, we're living it.
I watched that transition because every year it's like, shoot the concept cars, go get the concept cars. And the concept cars are turning into production cars. They make concept cars to see what people will want, what kind of gravitates to the top, and they go into production. So you're absolutely right.
And we're just kind of feeding off each other. But to add to that point, the original point to this, I just have one more note. So there are studies that show that younger generations now want to know what's inside the vehicles, and they don't necessarily care as much as how it looks on the outside. So that just kind of further elaborates. And so that does make sense why there's not as many concept cars, but it is all about the inside. It's also the materials, as well as the technology, but that's more of what the young generation are looking for.
It's really interesting to see how this is all changing and to see the younger generations, what they're interested in purchasing a vehicle, for sure.
Someone just told us recently that maybe my generation shopped a car from the outside in, and this generation shops a car from the inside out. I thought that was really, really a great way to put it.
That's very clever, yeah, for sure. So I want to kind of fast forward and talk a little bit about this year's show and what people should not miss if they come to the show over the next few days.
Well, there are a lot of really exciting things on the show floor in addition to all the brand new cars, trucks, and SUVs. I started to allude to this, but we have a couple of tracks that are in manufacturer displays. So Hyundai has their EV track, which is a great large track, plenty of opportunity for people to experience their EVs, and then also the Ford Built Wild Bronco track, a giant hill in the middle of the show floor. You can't miss it as you walk in. So it's a lot of fun. And then I mentioned our Chicago Drives Electric EV track. So we have all electric vehicles on that, 9 different brands. Definitely go and check that out. It's in the back of the show. You really can't miss it. And then, in the various exhibits, there are many things. Families, today is a holiday for some children
So
in the
I found
area.
out.
Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
it's a healthy crowd today. Monday's President's Day. So if you're coming down with the kids, whether 2 of those holidays or over the weekend, there's puppies in Subaru. They're running their pet adoption again, which is always such a fun thing to see the children in there and playing with the puppies. But there's just so many gems on the show floor, from simulators to AI technology. It's just a variety of fun things for everybody.
And we have a jet. Honda has a jet right over here. And then also in the Honda booth, they have a briefcase. It looks like a briefcase that turns into a scooter. So you'd carry it with you on the train, and then or drive down with it downtown. And if you have to park far away, maybe you can park in a cheaper lot and then hop on your briefcase scooter and take it to the office. Pretty cool.
How did I miss that? I saw the jet. I did not see the...
We're going to put it's called a Moto Compacto.
Oh, I did see those. I didn't know those folded up into briefcases.
Very cool.
Okay, I'm going to check that out on Monday for sure when I come back, because that sounds like a lot of fun. Let's talk a little bit about your favorite memories over the years.
Well, getting that Jeep track, that first Jeep track approved, was a lot of hard work and a lot of fun, because the first time I called McCormick Place, the answer was no. And so we had to overcome that no. And then we went to the city with a whole safety plan, and the answer was no again. And so then we went to Mayor Daley, and then the answer came back, sure, you can try it. And so thank you, Mayor Daley. We loved having these indoor test trucks. And that was the first one, really, since we had one in 1901, believe it or not, but first one since 1901, probably.
What did you have in 1901?
In 1901, I wasn't here, there was a track that went around the entire show floor, and it was to demonstrate to people what a car was. Back then, it was people's first exposure to a car.
I don't think people realize this car show has been around as long as it has.
Yeah.
Well, and so to add to that, one of my favorite memories was when we did our hybrid show, the indoor-outdoor street fest. During the pandemic, many events, all events closed, the whole world shut down, and so we're traditionally in February, but when we realized we couldn't open, we kind of kept pushing back, and finally we're able to open in July of that year. So we were really excited. indoor, outdoor again, just for the safety. We came up with a full safety plan. But what was most remarkable was reopening the city of Chicago. I think was high on the list. We had the mayor and the governor there. We held a press conference because the Chicago Auto Show, speaking of longevity and history, just a trusted, tried and true event, was able to reopen the city during the pandemic, and we had a ton of fun. Food trucks and bands and test drives on the city streets. It was a very unique event. February does work for us. It's just tradition for many in Chicago. We're back in February, but I'll always keep that memory close.
That was the first time they had Bronco Mountain.
Yes.
That's right.
Bronco Mountain debuted at that show, and it was a big part of it. And that's my favorite memory, too, because the whole thing, moving to the West Building, having a 5-day show instead of a 10-day show, cutting the price of exhibit space, it all came to me on a run one Saturday morning. And I called a couple of staffers, and I said, this is it. I got it. How we can do a show. And we were still trying to open the February 2021 show, but when we got a no on that, we went straight to this other one. So we were sort of designing 2 shows at once. And so when we got the no on the earlier, our traditional show, we went all in on this, we called it a special edition. And it really was a wonderful accomplishment.
I remember that phone call, and it was met with enthusiasm. Yeah, we could absolutely get this done. And we had a good time. I mean, it was a lot of work in a short amount of time, but I think it brought us together as a team closer.
It really did. And like Jen said, it was so important to get this economic engine, McCormick Place, back up and running. And once we had that show, they signed on shows show after show after show to re-up and get their show going. Once the auto show got going, their calendar filled up again.
And I have a personal story. I love to tell this story. So the morning of the press conference with the mayor and the governor, I walk into the building. I'm focused. My former role, PR communications, Rasnos, many years. And so I was ready and prepared with our press release. I was responding to journalists, and I'm kind of head down in the game. And all of a sudden, this gentleman walks up. He was a worker, clearly a worker at McCormick Place. He was kind of older and a little bit weathered, and he looked at me and he said, "Do you work with the Chicago Auto Show?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And I'm, headed to the press conference, and he said, "Thank you." And he looked at me in the eye, and he had tears in his eyes, and he said, "You put me and so many others back to work." And that changed the tone of the day for me. I tell this story often because it wasn't just about me or the auto show or what we were able to accomplish. It's about putting people back to work, and that will always stick with me.
I got chills when you told that story. Wow, that's so true. Speaking of work and working, how much work is it to get this show together? I feel like it's like Christmas. You start on December 26th, right, for the next year. So talk a little bit about what it takes to put this thing together.
Yeah, so it really takes us all year long. A bigger portion of our day is dedicated as we get closer to the show. But we really do. I mean, we're having meetings right now. Jen has a meeting about next year's show tonight.
See?
And so all of that happens throughout the year. We're meeting with manufacturers, trying to make a case that this show sells cars, and we see that again and again. We have a new exhibitor who tells us that they've sold a number of cars. I can't say how many. Wow. just in the presence of being on the EV track. And it's really a great story about the effectiveness, the marketing power of the Chicago Auto Show.
Yeah, and actually, nearly 70% of people who visit this show are in the market to purchase a new vehicle or lease a new vehicle within the calendar year. So that is a huge percentage of people who are here to shop. You don't get that from any other event like an auto show.
Well, no, because the thing is, they can compare all in one place. And talk a little bit about the test drives, because that is fairly new. I mean, a handful of years. When did that start? I forget.
Yeah, we started that probably, you're right, 10 or so years ago. We wanted to find we had automakers that wanted to do get behind the wheel test drives, and so we found a few spots out in the West Lobby where that would work, and then we have another spot for the exhibitors in the North Building to be down kind of at the bottom of the escalators. So we have a few different, I think one time we squeezed 7 in there, 7 outdoor test drives. And so the exhibitors tell us how much more valuable a lead is. So a customer who's been with a test drive or a ride on a vehicle, those leads are so much more valuable when they've experienced the vehicle that way.
Yeah, and I just say too that the manufacturers that do the trifecta, which I like to call it, so the exhibit space, the EV test track indoors, and outdoor test drive, and EV test track or indoor test track, so like Ford or Hyundai, like we were talking about earlier, they have the opportunity to really get the customer, and we see that in our data. But now they're riding along inside, and then their product specialists say, "Hey, would you like to actually get behind the wheel? You can head down this escalator and test drive on city streets," and they get the biggest return. So I guess it's a little bit of what you put in is what you get back. But if you think about it, it makes complete sense.
I was talking to one of the manufacturers this morning on the air, and they were telling me that people can, if they want to have a car delivered to their house or their office, and they can drive it for like a half an hour, and then they take it back. I was like, really? When did that start? I'd never heard of that before. That's very cool.
You know what? A lot of progress too has been made during the pandemic, and I think manufacturers and dealers were trying to figure out a way to make that work. Exactly what you said. So yeah, a lot of manufacturers have that program. There's different valet services. So yeah, I'd encourage people to inquire more about that. It might even be available to them and they don't know it. The other thing too is for oil changes. I know a lot of brands will actually pick up the vehicle and take it in, and they'll give them a loaner or maintenance and that type of thing. They'll kind of come to you. You don't always have to go to the dealership.
I like that a lot. I have used that a lot. I want to get back to putting this whole show together. So you start a year in advance, you reach out to the manufacturers. What else goes into this? I mean, you've got to get cars here, you've got to get carpeting, you've got to get audio, you've got to get, there's so much.
Yeah, so we have great partners, a contractor called GES who helps us quite a bit, and then of course all the trades here at McCormick Place who really like this show, the electricians, the carpenters, the riggers, the decorators, the teamsters. They love this show because they can bring their family to it, bring their friends to it, and they can't really do that at trade shows that are not open to the public. And so they take great pride in this show, as do we, of course. And it's amazing, too, that this show floor was bare about 2 weeks before the show. So the first thing that goes up is the lighting. They rig all the lighting. You can see truss hanging around different spots of the show floor. They hang that, and then they put out the freight and the carpet, and lay the carpet down, put plastic over it, and then they start building the displays. And Subaru was 30 truckloads. Just that one display.
Because of the national parks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild.
And all the rigging and everything, all the screens and things.
Right.
Oh, it's incredible.
I think one year I went like behind the screen to see all the tech in the back and how they made all this work, and I'm like, oh my God.
Did you see The Wizard of Oz?
No,
Oh.
There was no green curtain. Sorry, I looked. But yeah, it's just, I don't think the average person realizes just how much goes into this.
Right. So we're a team of 9 full-time staff members. But to Dave's point, we kind of multiply as the show gets closer, and it takes a lot of us to cover all the grounds. But once it's up and running and people who've been coming understand it, it really is. It's so interesting and fascinating how it's almost a metamorphosis of this bare show floor and then the build-up that takes place over about a week. Yeah, it's incredible. And the move out. Let's talk about how fast that comes down.
Yeah.
It's always quicker to break it down than to set it up, right?
It's back to a bare floor like 3 days later. It's incredible.
I mean, they got to be in here, zip, 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 like
Yeah,
fast forward.
yeah.
And it's really crazy.
One other evolution I'd like to talk about is just how different this show has become because of social media and digital media. And that is something that Jen has done so well to bring her expertise to this show and amplify the reach of the show. When you think about it, all these people all over the show floor, what do they have in their pocket, in their hand? Their phones. and they're recording lots of things that they like, and then they're sharing it with their friends and family. And so the show is not confined in these four walls. It goes out everywhere. And we have a media preview. We've always had a media preview, but that media preview has gotten so much bigger and farther reaching because of social media and digital media. And Jen and her team over the years have gotten good at measuring that and reporting it to the automakers. And so that just makes this auto show so much more effective. Thousands of people, each with a recording device, and sharing it out. It's really cool.
Yeah, and I just say too, for all the fans who are tuning in today, and they probably follow us on social media year round. So when you take our show, and to Dave's point about the content, we really look at this 10-day show and we deliver content to our fans on social media every day of the year. So it's not just the auto shows in town, come to our pages then. No, and we love about our fans is that they're engaged. When a new vehicle is debuted, it could be in LA, the LA Auto Show could be in New York, it could be online. They're coming to us, requesting information about it, and we're already pushing it out. We already work with the manufacturers year round, of course. But I just wanted to make that, that note, because a lot of events that take place that are quick, they kind of go away, and we remain relevant throughout the year.
No, I mean, your reach is global. On the media preview days, you've got people here from all over the country, all over the world. It's huge. I mean, and I look at this because, we all have to apply for our media, credentials and everything. And it's like, wow, this is really strict now, and you've got to do this and this and this and this. But I understand it. I do. But I just, to your point, talking about the evolution of all this, it's really something to see.
I was just going to add too. So, even if the manufacturers don't debut a new vehicle at our show, say they debuted it a week before. I mean, obviously we'd love them to bring that news to Chicago, but we always say that is content, because we do have thousands of journalists who come through our media preview and then continue to come, like yourself, Roz, and other media who are here local. They come back to the show every day. We have broadcast media here. We have radio stations based actually right out front by the Grand Concourse. They're broadcasting live from our show. Obviously, digital influencers, content creators. Everybody's a content creator with a cell phone, all the fans. But really, we have content that's being pushed out, and it's exciting because what we provide in our social team, I'll give a shout out to Jim and Haley on our social team, but they're giving behind the scenes looks at the show that you might not get otherwise.
It's a job all on its own. It truly is, because I can't do both. I understand, and it's a lot. And if you want to do it right, you really need to dedicate somebody to that, and you guys did it right.
When I started at CATA, I started an intern program, and my father was a professor of public relations at Ohio University, and so he would send us his 8 best students, and they really worked on the media preview. And Jen has evolved that into, and Jen and Mark have evolved that into a they call it a social squad. And I was highly resistant to allowing those guys to start dressing casually, because in my mind it was always this intern program where these kids were trying to, but it's so much different now. And so they dress casually, have social squad on their back, and they produce great content for us and record, again, 840,000 square feet of content that we'll use all year long.
Yeah, and like you said, Dave, it's just an evolution. So it's just the change of the times. But yeah, the social squad is around. So if anybody's at the show, you see them walking around with we have an Instagram frame. They'll take a picture. They give chances to win prizes. Just say hello. They're in blue shirts. You can't really miss them.
So what are you guys working on for next year? You knew I was going to ask.
Well,
you gotta ask her.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we have a lot of meetings that are being held currently, like Dave said, taking place here. We have manufacturers that have come in, are flying in, a couple more tonight, and we'll basically walk them around the show floor, talk about ideas. It really starts now, so time will tell a little bit. We have a couple ideas up our sleeves, so you have to stay tuned.
Well, I know you were able to get some new manufacturers out here this year who had never been part of the auto show, so kudos to you for doing that.
Yeah, it's interesting. So we do, you mentioned, well, one, Mazda's back. Mazda hasn't been at our show for many years. With the help of Napleton Auto Group, we were able to bring them back, and which is great because our fans on social media, again, are asking, where's Mazda's? And now we can say that they are here with their full lineup. We also have Tesla and Lucid for the first time, which is interesting because auto shows haven't been part of their marketing strategies in the past. And they haven't done traditional, I guess you can call it, whether it's TV advertisements, radio advertisements, that hasn't taken place in the past. So the fact that they are at an auto show is intriguing. Going back to how auto shows perform and how they work, that's the reason they're here, and they're having great success. Tesla's in the far back corner, and they have a giant line by their Cybertruck. I mean, people are finding them. It's not like we always say there's no bad spot on our show floor, but they're definitely bringing the crowd back to them.
Love it or hate it, it's unique. If people want to see it.
Sure is.
Yeah.
Okay. No, go ahead.
A couple of things that we've done, and one takes place tonight. We do things to try to expand the reach of the show, bring in new demographics to the show, people who've never been here before. And one tonight is called Friday Night Flights. It's a beer tasting event. Lots of cool breweries from around Chicago coming in, and people can buy a special ticket and do some beer tasting. And then last Sunday, we had Miles Per Hour, which is a run through the auto show. Sounds kind of crazy. But every year we do that, I ask the question, who in the crowd has never been to the show before? And invariably, a third to a half raise their hand. They've never been to the Chicago Auto Show. And so we win them through that race. And that's a fun story because Jen and I are runners, and I used to beat traffic. I'd come down early, run the show floor, and I always see Roz working earlier than me.
4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning.
One of the people she was interviewing was Kelly Enright from Stellantis, and she'd say, Dave, you should have a run through the show. And that's a great idea. And so we made a relationship with Chicago Area Runners Association, who came up with the concept Miles Per Hour, which is very cool.
Yeah.
Everybody starts at the same time and ends at the same time, and then they tell you how many miles per hour you ran. It was 60 minutes. And this year I got to run with two of my boys, and we had a wonderful time. It's going to be a great memory.
So fabulous. And I love the fact that you do have these themed days, coming out of COVID, First Responders and Military Appreciation Day. Fabulous. They've had Family Day for how many years now?
Yeah, at least 10 years. So yeah, Family Day is the last day of the auto show. President's Day, every day is Family Day here, of course, but there's special activities and events going on. We partner with the Daily Herald to produce that. So more information can be found on our website, chicagoautoshow.com, for the full lineup. But yeah, lots of different ways to bring different folks to the show.
Are you looking at any new or different theme days in the future?
It's possible. We might. We certainly keep adding, and we certainly try to find something for everybody. So whether you're into craft beer or running, I mean, kind of cars, of course, the star. But yeah, we'll find an event for you. And if anybody has any ideas of something you like to see, comment on our Facebook comments page on this link, and give us some ideas too.
You guys, I have to say, it has always been such a pleasure working with both of you. I mean, I'm going to miss you. You're going to be here, and wow, the Chicago Auto Show is just one of the best things I get to cover all year long. So thank you for taking the time, sharing your memories, talking about this year's show. Dave, I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Jen, I'll be seeing you.
Thanks, guys.
And we'll be seeing you. 3 more days to come to the show. I hope you get out here. There's a lot to do. In the meantime, I'm saying bye-bye. My weekend starts now. Enjoy. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.